Hello and welcome back to my brand new podcast, The Scottish CEO Show. Today I am joined by a very special guest, the right hand to me during my Apprentice filming time, serial entrepreneur and genuine crackpot. Welcome to the podcast, Miss Dani Donovan. Hello, Dani.
Hello, what an intro, Reese.
Do you know what? I always think that's when you've made it. When you get an intro like that, welcome to the show. It is so nice to have you on. How are you?
Oh, it feels great to be here. I'm feeling good. Really good. I feel much better being here than I did in the boardroom. I'll tell you that now.
You know, we were just saying this off camera, but I never, ever want to wear a suit again, and I don't ever want to be filmed by that many cameras. Do you agree?
I agree. I never want to wear a pair of heels in my life. I'm wearing trainers and a tracksuit for the foreseeable. And I definitely don't want to be woken up by a camera again. No way.
I don't know if you noticed this, but in one episode, I had nothing on, brushing my teeth, and I'm like, why has that made it to the BBC?
Honestly, of all the footage they get, it's like me. Sometimes I'm like, in the mirror, it always seems to be me and Marnie messing around in the bathroom. I thought, for God's sake, or me when I've just woke up.
It's the worst angles. There was one like me and I looked like Jimmy Neutron. I had all this hair.
Why?
But anyway, we digress. Dani, first of all, thank you so much for coming on. As I said, me and you met on The Apprentice. Best pals on screen, best of pals off screen, and I'm so glad that you have joined us for the Scottish CEO Show. I like to take it right back to the beginning before we come out to all the fun stuff. So tell me what you were like. What was Dani Jr.? What were you like at school?
So it's a funny one because I think you'd have expected me, and I think you'll be a bit shocked by this.
Yeah.
I think you'd have probably expected me to have been like the loudest in the room and a bit wild and crazy. But actually, I really, really loved school, and I was very, very studious and a bit of a kiss ass, I suppose. I was that one who, honestly, my homework was always done on time. I was always top of my class, and I really enjoyed school. I really did. But I mean, as I got a little bit older,
did you enjoy school for the social aspect as well?
Probably, yeah. I mean,
that was me.
Yeah, I loved it.
I think I was on the pupil council.
Oh, me too, honestly.
Any excuse to get out of class.
Yeah.
But I was quite academic, and I know fine well that you were very academic, because I actually remember one of my first days on set, someone said to me, "Oh, the girl from Essex is actually very intelligent. Tell me what other language you speak." Oh,
well, not very well. I don't know if I want to make those claims in public. But I can actually speak, I could speak a bit of German. I took it at A-level. I mean, I don't know if it would be understandable now, but do you know what? I'm okay at it, but when I've had a drink, I am brilliant at it. Honestly,
me. I've got a solo talk that I did in 4th year at school.
Yeah.
And I swear, one drink... Hola, I'm back.
I know.
So school for you was a good time. And tell us, what age did you leave school? What did you leave school with?
Yeah.
And when did you become the CEO that you are?
Reese, I love it when you say that.
You are the chief executive officer of many a company, which we'll come on to talk about in a minute.
So obviously, primary school, I really enjoyed. I've literally been so lucky the whole way through school. I've literally had the same friends the whole time, and we had a really good time. Then we obviously went on to secondary school, done my GCSEs, and I literally picked the hardest GCSEs. I think I did triple science, history and geography, and I think that was, and German. I think that
just for shits and giggles.
Yeah, I didn't do no food tech, no PE, no nothing like that, which I should have done.
You weren't doing creative cakes, you weren't baking fairy cakes.
No, I was just writing essays about Shakespeare, and I don't know why I done it, but I enjoyed it, and I actually done really quite well. I got all my GCSEs. I don't think I got anything below a B.
I think that probably there's a misconception with people like you and me that we have winged it to get where we got, and I want to kind of flip that on its head, because now you sit here at what age?
I'm 26 years old.
26, the same age as me.
Yeah.
Two of the youngest candidates on this year's show, other than Avi. And I was actually 25 when I filmed it.
Yeah, me
and
too.
So were you.
Yeah.
So at 25 years old, if you don't know, then get to know. But both me and Dani met on season 17.
Yes.
Season 17 of Lord Sugar's Apprentice. Now, Dani, you sit here as the CEO of Mermane, and it's quite an umbrella brand, I would say, from the outside. So you've got Mermane extensions, you've got your products, and you've also got your training academy. So if anyone doesn't know what that is, Dani is a bit of a maestro of the hair extension world, and you kind of do a bit of everything within that field, don't you?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we've got the salon and we've got all sorts of girls there doing all different treatments. And then I recently branched out into making products specially formulated for hair extensions, because I mean, those that don't know much about them, but you do have to treat them slightly differently to your own hair.
So there's no tresemme on those here?
There is absolutely no tresemme. I mean, no disrespect, but no, there is none on there.
So really what we're telling the listeners is it needs to be Mermane on those extensions.
Yeah,
but am I right in saying that you also manufacture hair as well?
So this is a good question, because this is actually what I was planning to do when I was on the show.
Okay.
I have gone into manufacturing hair, but obviously hair is a human product and there's just so much room for error that I've kind of steered away from that, gone down the product route. And that's actually been since I've left the show, I've decided to go down that route more so than producing the hair, just because obviously the current climate and imports
everything
and
else.
stuff, it's really hard. So all my products are manufactured, made in the UK, which I think makes
Which is
it a lot
important,
easier.
and I think that is important, I think, for anyone that is a buyer or a customer. So let's just, you tell us as your audience, tell us exactly what Mermane does and why you guys are so special, because I know, but let's tell everyone else.
So I think Mermane makes the world a prettier place, one mermaid at a time. We are all about making people feel good. Mermane, I mean, on the show, I was absolutely slated for having mermaids as my unique selling point.
Why would that be?
Because Linda said
Can I just ask, would that be by, and no disrespect to anyone here, but that would probably be from the same type of person that is triple the age of you and has no concept of the current climate. Am I right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Linda, for example.
Yeah, Linda. Yeah. And you know what? You'll find there's a common denominator as this podcast goes on that, you know, we had a great experience on The Apprentice, but there's certainly just some things that need to be reshuffled into a current climate. And I think that, you know, we'll come on and talk about that in a minute more about the show. But so tell me your product. And tell me all about it.
So obviously I've got the salon, I've got a training academy, so I teach others to do hair extensions, and then the products, they're basically all sulfate, paraben, SLS free, and they're all obviously, like I said, manufactured in the UK. They're specially formulated for hair extensions, and I think they just all fit in with my brand. My brand is based around holidays, feeling good. Like, it's not, obviously I know that mermaids aren't real. I mean, I don't know if I can say that on here. What age are people listening?
Listen, well, I don't know if it comes with an age restriction, but I think that it goes back to a mermaid is an idealised human or person or thing that we all aspire to be. You know, we all love Christmas. We all love Santa.
Exactly.
And you know, these ideas that's around these holidays, you're essentially trying to create a concept based around mermaids, which I think is absolutely...
Exactly. And the associations that come along with mermaids is being on holiday, one of my favourite things. Being
Sign
on a beach,
me up.
being naturally beautiful. And that's what I really want to promote. I don't want to promote the whole Barbie doll glam.
Yeah.
And I think we're definitely, as a society, steering away from that. Everything's going a bit more natural.
More natural.
Yeah.
So you, at 25, joined The Apprentice. Now, Dani, last year was a bit of a whirlwind, and I'm going to take it right back to everything about your business. So we've covered your business, we've covered what you are and your unique selling point. And for me, I knew right away that me and you were going to get on. So for anyone that doesn't know, me and Dani actually didn't work together on screen, and I'll come on to that. But we met on day one on that bus to Antigua. So for anyone watching this, how it works is we call it Boardroom Zero.
Yes.
Boardroom Zero, you arrive, you have no warning. We've just come out of the taxis and we got drove into that boardroom. So everyone walked in and the big man, Lord Sugar, said, "Pack your bags, you're going to Antigua." Me instantly thinking, fuck is Antigua?
Yeah,
I'd never heard of it.
I don't have a bikini with me.
Someone better go to Tesco. So me and Dani went to Antigua together for episode 1, and we just got on so well during the process. But I need to tell the listeners and tell the viewers something so funny about you.
Oh, what?
Day one, I remember everyone was doing the intros, you know, everyone's ego's getting the better of them, you know, yeah, I own £1 million business, I own £1 million business. Me and you, I was like, tell me something fun about you, and you went, "I'm Dani and I'm fucking mental." I will never forget it. And instantly I thought, she's the gal for me. I found myself a new mate. And I think that when it's important to talk about this, but in that first week, like, you don't know who you can trust, you don't know who you can't trust, and you're just so hyper aware. But me and you literally got on right away.
Yeah.
Me, you, and Bradders were just so close throughout the process. So let's just talk about that. Talk about what it was like to get that call to say you are going on The Apprentice.
I mean, it was for me a bit of a long-winded process, really, because
we have an exclusive, I believe, actually, because I have a little bit of a secret that we're going to share.
What's
so,
that?
Dani, you were actually supposed to be on last season's, weren't you?
I was on Series 16, but I actually had my bags packed. I was ready to go.
She had her suit, she had her handkerchief.
I had my air hostess outfit ready and waiting to go. And basically, I got COVID, literally. I think it was either the day before or 2 days before we were due to go into isolation before entering the process. So I remember at the time thinking, why the hell has this happened to me? And then when I got into Boardroom Zero and Lord Sugar said, we're off to Antigua, I was
hell yes.
This is why.
You wouldn't have met me. We wouldn't have met each other. And I just think,
exactly.
like, I could not have saw you in that season. I couldn't have at all.
No.
So I think it's important to go back to the most important question that I get asked all the time is, why did you apply?
That's actually a really good question, to be honest. And I think the main one, another exclusive for you, I actually first applied for The Apprentice when I was 18, right? I applied for it. I think I just started my business. I thought, why the hell not? It'd be good fun. So I applied, got an email back, and absolutely shit myself. And I was like, okay,
not doing it.
I can't do this. I'm not going to go for the interview. I just didn't go. And I've always watched it and thought, you know what? They're really cool, them people on there. Like, I think I could do that. I think that's what the want and the desire to go on there is.
Was to be part of that process as opposed to anything else.
Yeah, and almost just because I think when you watch it, it's so easy as a viewer to think, do you know what? I could do that. Yeah, idiots. I could do that. And I think I just wanted to prove to myself that I could do that.
So I think it's important to add on this, and a lot of people might not know this. I don't know if you know this, but I had actually never watched the show.
Really?
I only watched last season's during the application process.
Right.
So I had filmed a pilot for another show that had been, like, I had been scouted from, and then basically it didn't go ahead, so then I found myself in a conversation at The Apprentice. And I watched last season's, and I remember thinking, these people are thick as mince. Now that we have went through the process, I can 110% confirm that those people and those previous candidates are not thick as mince. And in fact, it is 10 times harder than you would ever imagine. The only way I can describe it is, if you think you're on that winning streak, bang.
Oh, yeah.
A production thing steps in. So it's like, you've got 5 minutes left. And you know what? We're not here to out the show or do anything like that. But I think people need to understand it is a TV show. In real life, you could pick up the phone and you could do things that you can't do. You could Google.
In Brighton. Do you know what I mean? Why didn't you Google that? Well, I would have if I had my phone.
No, people saying to me, why did you not know that the other team didn't have hands and feet? I said, because they were 50 miles away down the road in London where I had no communication with them until the curtains were finished. So I think there's a bigger picture there, and I think from us going on the show, you decided to apply because it was a desire to join that. It's cool. It is a cool show.
Yeah, I mean,
you know what? Whether you like it or whether you're not, but it's always going to be a part of your life that we have. And I will never forget day one, strolling down London with that briefcase thinking, I am a cool kid.
I was like,
I had my 3-piece suit on and I was raring to go. So no, and I think that I totally agree with that. When it gets down the final, when it gets down to the kind of final stages of going on the show, I'm going to talk about the application process because you obviously were supposed to go on last year and then they asked you to come back and go through the same process this year. But let's talk for any of our lovely listeners out there that fancy trying it. Good luck is what I've got to say.
Yeah.
Pack some extra pants because you'll probably shit yourself halfway through.
You'll definitely need them.
So let's talk about the application process because for me, and I know people probably think, what a cocky idiot for saying that, but I found the process like a walk in the park to get on the show, and I know that anyone else that has got on, I know speaking to you, I didn't find it that hard.
No, I think the thing is, if you don't put too much pressure into it, and I think you need to have, although they are looking for business people, they are looking also for a bit of personality and a bit of entertainment. So I think essentially, if you've got a combination of the two and you've got a business brain, you should be able to apply your skills and you should be able to get on there. I mean, it's easy for us to say.
But then I honestly will say this, right? Because I've listened to many a podcast and I've listened to many people interview, and I'm like, I honestly did not find the application process that hard. I remember leaving and thinking, I'm not going on that show, because I actually think I got fired in the interview stage where...
Did you?
No, sorry, I actually fired Brad in the interview process, exclusive.
Oh.
So for anyone that doesn't know this, me, Avi, Brad and Joe were all in the same audition.
What? There was not a single other person.
We were all in the same audition, and I actually knew... Proper exclusive here, but when we went into isolation, I knew Brad was on it as well.
How?
Because the BBC are going to come for me for this. But
no.
You remember when we got the COVID nurse who came and did our COVID test?
Yes.
Well, me with my nose out of joint, wanting to try and figure out who was on the list.
I did
saw
see the list.
Brad Johnston.
Oh, okay.
So there was me. We still had our phones at this point.
Yeah.
There was it was our laptops we still had.
Didn't she? Oh yeah, because she took our phones that day. Didn't she?
So for anyone watching the show, once you eventually get on, you go into isolation. I did like a 2.5 week isolation, and listen, it was in a lovely hotel in the middle of West London. But I did a 2.5 week isolation because obviously I'm from Scotland. So when they brought me down, they were like, "There's too much of a risk with COVID bringing you up and bringing you down through airports." But we all did like a week isolation.
I think I did a week. Yeah, and that was hard enough, Reece. Honestly, I don't know how you done.
Danny. I mean, listen, it wasn't a harsh isolation until the final week. I was still allowed to potter about, go and get my hair cut. Maybe it was just, I just had to be like still essentials. And then on that final week before you go on the show, now I don't know if this would happen again. I don't know if it's because it was just, we were still during COVID.
Yeah.
And we were also going to Antigua, which we didn't know about. No. But we were actually took out for daily dog walks as we go.
Oh my God. So
the application process is this. You apply, you do 4 stages.
I think there's a couple of phone ones, maybe 2 in-person ones, but they're long days.
They're long days, yeah.
Really long.
And you get put in with a group of people that would literally test your patience. I remember thinking with people like, I honestly would say it, Gemma Collins was in my audition dressed in disguise. This woman was gunning for people, and I thought, whoa. If she gets on, this is not the show for me, because, I always say you don't need to be the loudest in the room. Let your successors do the speaking. And I know 100%. That and people probably look at us and think we are quite loud, we're quite animated, but I was not in that audition, and I know you were.
No, I wasn't.
And I think that when I then realised when we got to Boardroom Zero that I had Brad, Avi and Joe, not that I knew them, but, I knew them from the audition. And I thought, okay, Avi, love him, but he has a personality. He is great. He gives them everything that they want on screen. And I thought, great, Avi's here, that'll be a good laugh for us all. And listen, he gave us exactly what we wanted.
He did.
That boy,
he really did.
He produced. So then what happens is we all got the phone call. You go in for many a meeting, and then we got the call to say we were joining the cast.
Did you get the whole?
You're gonna have to join.
Yeah. What was it? Unfortunately, you're gonna have to spend your summer with us.
Me, yeah. So I won't name names, but basically I remember in my final interview I kind of had an inkling I had it, because I would just went on the angle. I was like, you've not had a Scottish person in 10 years. You can find anyone from Scotland that's got more business acumen than me, then I'll give them my place. I remember being like, because you need to ham it up a bit. And I remember just saying listen, this is my both worlds come together. I've been on TV, I now own a business, and I'm here to prove to Lord Sugar that he needs to invest in me. Just gave them all the chat. And I remember in my final interview, the exec, big boss said to me, Reece, are you prepared to be spoken to and woken up by potentially an 18-year-old runner? She went, how would that feel for you? And I remember thinking, why are you asking me that? You must have got something for me that I was going to go, piss off. Yeah. But I went, listen, I said, I've worked in TV before, I said, and regardless of people's age, I said, everyone's there to do a job. And she went, well, I think that you might be joining us this summer. I remember it, and I thought, might be joining you this summer. Went home, 2 days later, you get the email to say, keep this date free.
Yes.
I'll never forget it. It was St. Patrick's Day, the 17th of March last year, 9:15. Hello, how are you? You're gonna have to spend the summer with us. So then both of us went on, and let's just talk about that process of joining The Apprentice. Sum it up for us. What was it like?
chaotic. I don't know how. I wouldn't even know how to put it into words, and I think I wouldn't even know how to explain it. It's like when I come home and I was trying to tell my boyfriend, trying to tell my family what I'd been through, I just didn't even know how to have the words to describe it. I mean, it's fast paced.
The way I can describe it is you love it.
Yeah.
Right? It's like a sick buzz that you go,
it is.
Every day you come home and go, what have I done today? But I will say some of the conditions are harsh. It's not harsh only because the one thing I will say is you're so secluded from your normal life. It couldn't be further from me and you's normal life.
Oh, no.
Like, you know, when I go to work, I'm going to go through the drive-thru and go to Starbucks. I'm going to potter my way in, and I'm in real no urgency to get myself anywhere.
Yeah.
This was flipped on its head. You've got 20 minutes!
And it is actually 20 minutes. So many people ask me on a daily basis.
The most asked question, do you get ready in 20 minutes?
Yes, we get ready in 20 minutes.
We get ready in 20 minutes. So let's just talk about that, because I think that, like, probably why people are going to be tuning in today is to figure out how we enjoyed the process. And the only way I can describe it is it was the best, but hardest, but toughest, but you know,
it was the highest highs and the lowest lows. And I think that's the
only way I can describe our relationship as a group of people is I will never respect anyone as much as what I respect those 18 people, because it is physically and mentally demanding.
Yeah.
You know, when else would you be in any situation to leave your business, your life, your family, your friends, and have no contact with them for up to 3 months? And I just think I take my hat off to anyone that has ever done it. And see, for me, I also take my hat off to the crew that work on it, because
honestly,
if she is listening, Charlotte, you know,
Charlotte,
look at her, right? Like, what a bloody angel. I remember some days Charlotte was still with us at 12:30 at night.
I know.
And we were waking up at 3:15.
Yeah.
If you remember that...
Was it when we did lunch boxes and they drove through the night or something like that to go and pick up
the boxes?
I know.
I remember when we did the motorbikes.
Yes.
Me, Vic and Meg got in at 12:30. I remember coming in, half sleeping, I was like, don't speak to me. And we were up the next day to go to that pitch at 3:30am. And I remember thinking, I'm actually not here physically.
No.
Mentally, I don't know where I am. And it's that's hard. And I think that, you know, anyone that's thinking of applying, you will have the funnest couple of months of your life. But it comes with a disclaimer that it's hard.
Of course.
It is so hard. So let's talk about that. Let's talk about some of your highs and some of your lows on the show, because that's something that I think is important to talk about.
Yeah. So where should we start? Are we going to start glass half full, glass half empty?
Let's start with the highs.
Okay. So do you know what? One of my favourite things was, actually, this is kind of a low and a high, but I'll combine it into one. I think when I first got there, I thought, what on earth? I thought, is this what it's going to be like? It just seemed so negative. Everyone was at each other, and I thought, I don't know if I belong here. Then it got to episode 2, and we was on the market stalls, and I think that is the first time I really thought, okay, I bloody love this.
Yeah.
I was like, when we was on those market stalls selling those bao buns, I thought, this is why I'm here. Like, I might not have sold tickets to the tour, but I can sell a bao bun.
Danny, I hate to break it to you, but the big man over here did get the highest sales in week 1. And I think that's so true. It's like you go through from day to day, like you've just said. I was on, you know, I thought I was coasting right to the final from episode 1. Meanwhile, you're tucked up in bed thinking, let me go home.
Yeah,
so it's important to talk about that. So let's talk about what changed for you after that first episode.
So I think after that first episode, I put aside my emotions and I thought, do you know what? I'm here to do a job. Stop trying to make too many friends, because the thing is, you can make friends. We all made really, really good friends, but you have to realise that they're friends off camera. On camera, you're there to do a job. You're there to kind of get through the process, and you can't really pander to anyone else or carry on anyone else. In a normal situation, if your mate fell over, you'd want to pick him up and carry, but you can't in that situation. It's a doggy dog.
I also say it is strictly business, right?
It is, yeah.
And what it comes down to is, if in life you need to make business decisions, sometimes it feels shit.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, you know what? It always comes down to a business decision, and I think that's so important. So you spoke about some of the highs, you spoke about some of the lows, and I think what I want to now talk about is we obviously see on camera, we see, you know, bit of wheeling and dealing, you know, we've got our Del Boy of East London, you running around, you know, everyone was like, oh, you're quite savvy, you're Scottish, you're this. You know, I could have sold, honestly, ice to the Eskimos on that show, and I loved it. But I think it's important to also talk about some of the lows and the frustrations, because look at cartoons where my
goodness.
heart was in such of a good place where I thought I was on that winning streak.
Yeah.
And then there's so much that's out of your control. Like the team, you know, we're not going on their saga again, but ultimately they forgot to add hands and feet.
Oh,
then
goodness.
that landed me in the boardroom with Greg and Denisha. And I'm like, realistically here, like what it comes down to is a statement of fact, right? And this is what it comes down to is like, I love Greg, I love Denisha, we all love each other, but it comes down to contribution and effort. And it always does. You know, if you've made a mistake, you need to own up for it and hope that Lord Sugar goes, no worries, forget about it. But when that episode, I remember after that episode, that Dani, I was like,
So
the world
crushing,
hates
isn't it?
me.
Yeah.
I was like, the world hates me. I have killed off the nation's sweetheart. I was like, Greg has literally, everyone loved him. And you just feel like burying yourself under the pillow and
Yeah.
just not waking up because it is so harsh. Everyone's on you. So talk about that side of it.
I actually had a similar situation happen, obviously in week 10.
Yeah.
And it was when the dog food task. And obviously it was between me and Simba.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I think judging by the show, people would have thought that me and Simba absolutely hated each other. But I have a lot of respect for Simba.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it was one of those ones, like you say, it all comes down to contribution. And it made it look like I was sort of just not letting him get a word in edgewise. But when you're in that pressure and you've got to get a job done, and if it's, you just have to go for it basically. And the thing is, he actually said to me, and I remember him saying it to me, I was like, I want to give up. I don't want to do this. I can't do this anymore. And Simba went to me, you don't go down without a fight. He was like, you've got to say what you want to say. I got in the board and I was like,
You are
"Ruh."
right.
But
people might not know this as well, and this is maybe a little bit of an exclusive, but before you go back into that boardroom, you have a chat with a
fight for
producer.
your life.
Fight for your life.
That's what they call it. They take it and they say,
They hype you up.
You did
It's
that.
like
You did
the
this.
biggest hype men. I
Yeah.
remember director Bradley, legend.
yes, he
what
was a
a
legend.
boysy
Yeah.
he is. So I had Bradley for my, I think it was Brighton, and I remember, no, it wasn't. It was Giannis.
Oh, Giannis, yeah.
Legend
he was good.
as well.
Yeah.
And I remember he went, I was starting to get like a wee bit upset. Not upset because I would like.
You do take it
but
so
you're like,
personally though, because
I'm like,
at the moment
I've just
that's-
left that boardroom. That man is shouting at me over an asparagus and I worked so hard. So you take it so personally. And I remember thinking, I'm actually that angry that something's going to come out of my mouth that I'm going to
Gonna
regret.
regret, yeah.
Because I'm then like, nah. And I remember Giannis saying to me, Reese, there is a statement of fact. You you negotiated more. You got more products than anyone else. Go back in
You're
there
like,
and tell
okay,
them. And I'm like, right,
I
Giannis,
did.
your backup's ready for you. And you get in there and you're like, and you're just waiting on
I've
that.
arrived.
Reese, why should you stay in the process? And I'm like,
Because.
well, bang, bang, bang. And I think like when you leave, but I think when you go back in there, Dani, you want it so much more.
You do, because you realise what's in front of you. And I said that in the last boardroom. Obviously, it was quite chaotic, and people were like, "I didn't realise." But it is when it's competition at the end of the day. When it's either you or someone
Yeah.
else, you're never going to
And
go
I think
down.
as well, it's like, you know, we all back ourselves so much, probably.
course. You wouldn't be there if you
wouldn't
didn't.
be there. And I think that it's so important to talk about that because obviously when I say so many of us are literally best of pals right now, and all of us are so close, all of us love each other, but it's the strangest bond ever. I cannot describe the bond I have with yous to your known pals because it's like you've been through so many different emotions. It's like life just goes, you know, when you watch Love Island,
Yeah,
and
you
it's
think,
like,
how have they fallen in love so quickly? You think,
I can tell you because
Yeah.
listen, I had made best pals for life in there,
Yeah.
and I think it's so important to say that though because you watch it and it's like, I love them after 2 days, and then you're like, you genuinely start to respect people so much more because you go through every emotion with them.
You do,
and I
yeah.
think that's so important. So let's talk about this, okay? Dani,
Yes.
me and you, how did we become good old friends in that process? What was the moment for you that you thought, he's a good one?
So I think it was actually the first moment. You know, when we was literally just sat on the bus and I could hear him talking and chatting away, like everyone on the back of the bus just listening to what Reese has got to say. And I was sat there chatting away and I just turned around to him and literally was sat behind him on this bus and went, we're going to be best friends.
I remember it so clearly. That was the
Literally.
first thing you said to me. You went,
Yeah.
we're going to be best friends. And it's so true. And like, I remember from then on, but a little bit of an exclusive,
Come
we
on.
weren't allowed to work with each other.
We never, ever worked together. We had to debrief, didn't we? I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know if we should.
We should say that. Yeah, we should say it because it's important to say. So
Yeah.
there is a rule in the house and it's called task talking.
Yeah.
No task talking. No.
Oh, the amount of times you hear that.
I can hear a voice saying that
Yeah.
right now, and trust me, if I can hear his voice, it is like, honestly, it's like an alarm in your head. So the rules of the competition are you cannot talk.
Process, not
Sorry,
competition.
the rules of the process are correction. God, you'd think you've been briefed. The rules of the process are you're not allowed to talk about the task to the other team. But that's very hard because, like, I couldn't have went for a piss with it telling Dani. You know, I'd be like, oh. So we would never discuss numbers or anything like that, but we'd be like, how was your day? And I think you needed that. Like,
you do.
I think you need it because you're so self-consumed of like, am I going home? Are you going home? Are they going home?
Exactly.
So we would just have a debrief. Me, you and Bradders would meet downstairs at the cinema room. Rochelle would be there and we would all just have it. We wouldn't give anything away, but just go, how was your day?
Yeah.
And I think it's so important to talk about that because you need that support bubble when you're in that house.
And the thing is, that's a normal thing you do. If I'm at work all day, I'll go home. My boyfriend will say to me, "How are you? How's you?" Like you do us.
You would come home and talk to Rock and say, "This is how my day was."
Yeah, and
you're not allowed to do that.
No, and I think like you need to. Like you don't realise if by carrying the emotions and carrying all of that information in your own head, it becomes heavy after a while, and you'll break.
You end up carrying not only carrying the show, but you're also carrying everything else.
Exactly.
So no, I think that's important to say. But we were very, very lucky that we all got on and we all made a very good group of friends.
Yeah.
And I think honestly it goes to saying there's not one person in that house that I wouldn't go for dinner with because we just had some laugh. Like, it's memories of a lifetime. So Dani, we weren't allowed to work together because someone once said that we were very similar.
Really?
Could you see that?
I don't know.
I think where it's quite difficult is you probably can't have what we would say, you know, I actually don't know what would have happened if we worked together.
Do you know what? If we worked together, I don't think we would have been as good friends because I think I would have wanted to do it my way. You would have wanted to do your way. I would have been like, we would have been at each other. Well,
and I think that it is important to say that like there is people in the competition that you genuinely never worked with.
No.
Never.
Yeah.
And I think like that even goes when you go right down the competition. But I think that's what made us such good friends because we didn't work together. So even in the boardroom, I remember people going, Dani was this, and I'd be like, that's my gal, that's my mate.
Yeah.
So, no, we didn't work together on the show, but off screen, we had some laugh. You know, we were like the ant and deck of that house, some may say. We had sports day planned, we had everything planned.
Was so annoying.
I know, that was annoying. I think it was raining.
We actually had, we got a big, where did we get that paper from? We got a big bit of cardboard or some sort of paper.
That. We were really invested in that.
We were so invested. We had all of the different races planned out. We had an itinerary.
Egg and spoon, the wheelbarrow race. So me and Dani, basically, we had one of our glorious days off. So you get a day off every kind of week, 2 weeks, something like that.
Yeah, depending
on the task. But we had a day, I think we had 2 days off.
Maybe. We probably just didn't know what to do with ourselves.
And you come, like I always say, I remember one of the producers saying, you either go back in time when you go into a process. We was like babies.
Yeah.
I was like a grade 1 child. Like, hi, who wants to play hide and seek?
Yeah, I think one
Do you remember?
and I think one day I actually said, does anyone want to play Apprentice? So we pretended to do a task. They was like, are you sick?
And it is, you just like, because you're just like, someone give me a phone.
Yeah.
Someone allow me to go to Zara for the day.
I know.
And it's these things people don't know. So we literally had the best times off camera. Me and Dani were a bit of a double act in the house. And I do think it would be a much better show if they showed the house. Because it was fun. So let's talk about that. Let's talk about living in that £18 million mansion. Describe it.
It was lovely. I mean, I wish I didn't live there with like how many people live there? Like about 25 people, including the crew. So I mean, it was a really nice house. It was a shame we wasn't allowed to use a swimming pool or anything like that. I mean, it was a bit devo about that.
Yeah.
But it had a cinema. It had maids' quarters. It had like their boiler room was literally probably the size of my house. My house, yeah, like literally, it was huge. It was lovely. All marble floors, a huge big staircase. I mean, there was a lift
for me.
Yeah, there was a lift in there.
Do you know what I would say? Beautiful house, stunning decor.
I wouldn't pay that for it though.
Listen, if you were to come to Scotland, and for anyone listening, I could get you 3 castles for £18 million, and we could own a stately home and have a wedding business on the side that we rent it out for weddings. But for me, the house was just, do you know what? I describe it as, it's like Big Brother, isn't it?
Yeah.
You meet friends for life. You are living in living conditions that you would never live in. When is us as grown adults, grown business owners, grown CEOs, when would we live in a single bed with 4 other people in a room?
With literally a little bedside table, but so you just do it and it's fun, isn't it?
And it's fun, and I think it's about taking that experience and just going, do you know what? It's a laugh. And I remember one thing that, like, I'm obviously quite open about this, but like my aim when I went on there is, you know, I was there to win. And I was quite brazen in the sense of when I got there, I was like, you know, I don't care what it's going to cost me, but like I am here to prove a point. Yeah. And I remember like just bouncing back from that boardroom week and week again. Yeah. But I think as well, what's quite important to say is like, as it goes on, you then start to go, do you know what? Like, I actually don't mind about winning that much because although like when it's close to being taken away from you, it feels hard, but you must probably agree with this, is like you then start to get really invested in other people. And like as we sit here and you know, we know our amazing finalists, I actually think that like you start to then go,
you really do. You
just
really
want
do.
them and you go, do you know what? I want them to win as well.
You do, because you sort of hear people's stories, their backgrounds, what their business is like, how this would change their lives. And you just think, do you know what? Like, I think anyone that actually has the balls to go on there deserves to win it.
100%.
Because I think it's just taking that leap in the first place. Most people wouldn't do it. And that's what annoys me about the trolls. And people have always got something to say.
Well, we're just about to come on to that because it's so important to talk about the trolls. But let's just like talk about that, because I think what do you have during that process is the only people you have is each other.
Exactly.
And you just touched on it there, but like let's quickly talk about the pressures of being on a show. Now, I'm not under any illusion. We are not trying to evoke any sort of sympathy, but I'm telling you as a statement of fact, none of us knew what we had signed ourselves up for.
No, and I mean, they prepare you as much as possible.
They can. I remember Jane, and for anyone that, like, you know, you have an amazing welfare person that looks after you still to this day. Yeah. God bless her. Legend. Love her.
Absolute legend.
My Jane voice is quite good, isn't it? Hi, Reese. How are you? Yeah. I'm really good at Jane and I love her with all my heart. But I just think, like, you know, I remember I said, you did not prepare me for this. Yes, I did actually, Reese. I remember we sat in Stephen Street and I told you to be prepared that your life was just quite never going to be the same. And now I'm like, so you did.
She did tell me.
She did tell us that. And I think it's important to talk about that because people see the highs, people see Instagram and they see me and you giving it big licks with a trolley case.
Yeah.
Woohoo, we're through another week. Yeah. All of that stuff. But let's just talk about the real life on The Apprentice, because filming is tough. Anyone that goes through that process, but also any crew and any producer on that, like some of the producers are still working on that now. They do not get a day off. And I think that's important to say, is like everyone that works on that, it is a well-oiled machine. And I totally take my hat off to anyone that's been on it. But as a candidate, let's talk about when your name gets announced.
So, I mean, I don't know if it was the same for you, but
I know what you're going to say.
I think it's the
it's
anticlimax.
Yes, a total anti-climax.
I thought, okay, when my name's going to get announced, I'm going to be hounded and it's going to be crazy and scary and I'm going to be like, oh my God. I think Dani, I literally got one of my friend's dad send a picture of the thing. Is that your mate in the paper? And that was it, really.
What did we say when we were filming? I remember something so clearly. I remember saying, what are we going to be when this show airs? We were going to be Holly and Phil.
Oh yeah, Holly and Phil. That's
we were like, do you know what? They're a bit too old. They're past it. It's time for a couple of 25-year-olds to take over that couch. And I would say,
ready, wasn't we?
I mean, we're still ready. This morning, if you are listening, contact us. The emails are in the bios and we are ready and waiting. I think we'd be bloody great presenters together.
Yeah, we would have such a laugh.
I know it's important to get the work done though, isn't it?
Well, we would get the work done. I think we wouldn't even need a script, would we? We would just be able to...
We're a buzz. I always say that. We'll talk about some pattern that we've learned over the process, but let's talk about that day. On you go.
I need to get it.
Let's talk about... You're right. Thanks for the heat. So let's talk about that day when your name gets announced. Now, spoiler.
Ours got announced early, didn't it? We got a
There
call.
was a leakage.
I'm not ready yet.
I was in Dubai.
Oh no.
Remember, I was on holiday and it was like, hi, we've been trying to call you. The Sun has your name. And I was like, shit. I've not been through my Instagram. I've not went through. And it's like, and we were announced, well, there were 6 of us announced.
Like
me,
before
you,
Christmas.
Rochelle, Vic, Avi and Meg.
Yeah, that's it, yeah.
Right, we were all announced early and we were leaked as the Insta Apprentice.
Oh, that's it, yes.
We were,
yes.
the piss was taken well and truly out of us. So I felt like it was a proper anticlimax because we had been building up to this day of like reveal day. Do you know what I felt like? I felt like Willy Wonka was giving us a golden ticket.
Yeah.
And it was a total anticlimax. think we gained about 200 followers. Tell me how you felt on that day.
I felt exactly the same. I mean, when it first happened, I was panicking. I was thinking, oh my God. I remember going out, buying the paper, like thinking,
go on.
Yeah. And then I thought, oh. And I thought, okay, maybe when the show's out, it'll be a bit more fun, a bit more exciting.
And I think it is important to talk about that. So let's talk about the real Apprentice. When that comes on screen, when your name's announced, when we walk in that boardroom zero, what does it feel like?
It is amazing, to be honest. Like the love you receive, the support you receive, it's quite overwhelming. You think, wow, like so many people are so happy for you, and I think that's something quite rare to find in today's society, is people that are happy for people who are happy and doing well. So it was really nice to receive like so many lovely messages.
And you do that. I find that so many people were just so buzzing. I think for me, being Scottish, Scotland was like out there waving the flag.
They really
and
was.
I think for you, it's like, Dan, I just remember thinking like, do you know what? This is so nice. We've all worked so hard. And then what kind of happens as the weeks go on is people start to get a bit invested,
they do.
should we say. So let's talk about that side.
So, I mean, obviously people take a liking to who they take a liking to, and it's not always going to be you. I mean, at the start, I felt like I was flying. I was looking at, I mean, at first, I never went on Twitter.
I don't have Twitter for that reason.
And then I started to go on there because people were saying nice things, and I thought, oh, this is nice to see. Makes you feel good. Yeah, and I thought, lovely. And then it's like you make one mistake, and it's like,
you're over.
Boom, you are over. And it can be such a toxic, soul destroying place. And I mean, I don't have Twitter on my phone. I don't look at anything like that. I don't read any of the articles that come out. I just have got no interest anymore.
And I think as well, I always say this, and production will tell you this as well, the type of person on Twitter is a different breed, okay? Anyone that wants to have a picture of a dog or a picture of a football strip and troll a 25-year-old businessman or a businesswoman who is on the television trying to better them is not the type of person that I'm interested in.
No.
And my advice to anyone is just don't give it any oxygen.
No.
But with that being said, it's so easy to get in your DMs and for it to be seen.
Yeah.
And I think what's important...
There was someone messaged me, and I said, and he had a picture of his daughter as his profile picture, and I said, I hope your daughter's proud, meshing a random girl abuse online. And he said, you're not a random girl, love, you've been on telly. And I thought, why does that give you the right
that merit that?
To be able to message me? Like you still can't abuse me just because I've been on telly. Like I'm still a normal person.
I think it's important to also add on that as like, you know, the show will prepare you for that, but there's nothing quite like that first wind of what can only be described as abuse. Right?
It is.
And it's like, you know what, my view on it is this: we sign ourselves up for it. It's kind of part of the job, is what I always say. It is part of the job, but it's still shit, right?
It is, yeah.
I remember that, honestly, that episode where Greg got fired, I thought people were coming through my door.
Yeah.
Like, I remember phoning, I don't know if it was you or Rochelle, and I was like, the nation hate me. Like, people were actually sending me messages like, die, you've killed it. And I'm like, is it really that deep?
I know.
It's a bloody TV show. And I think we filmed it that long ago. We've not saw the edit. We've not saw anything. And I think that's one thing you need to be prepared of. But the $1 million question is, does it outweigh the positives?
I wouldn't say so, no. Because I think you just have to keep bringing yourself back. And I think
if you're tough-skinned, you're thick-skinned, like,
rhino skin, my mum says.
Listen, you know, we're going to need to get some surgery on the skin layers that we're carrying after the abuse we've had. But I think where it's hard is it's really personal, right?
It's very personal about your appearance,
about your accent,
your character. Yeah.
Like, I mean, the amount of stuff that was said, and I know you're the same, as like, get off the effing show. I don't understand a word you're saying anyway.
God, constantly.
If I got told one more time that people didn't understand, and I'm like, lies. Because I would not have been on the BBC, neither would you, if people couldn't understand us. And that's what the fact.
But it's rude. Like,
it's just rude.
I would never comment on the way someone speaks. That's something you cannot change.
Cannot change.
But like, why? What gives you a right to comment on that? I just don't understand.
It is mad.
People. I know.
But I think that, let's talk about that. So let's educate the world on the trolling.
It's just, I feel like even giving them the time now is just like, it's
I'm going to say this.
You
have to, right? But what I will say is, it is part of the job. You cannot expect to be on a show that's viewed by 9 million people every Thursday night and not have, I always say, you can't have Sandra from Cornwall that's not going to like you. I'm like, Sandra, I probably don't like you.
No,
and do you know what? There's no hard feelings, but I would not go onto a social media platform and say that. So I think that the one thing I would say, if anyone is considering going on The Apprentice or any sort of factual entertainment show, because it's not a reality show, listen, you know what? You need to be prepared to have that come back at you. And I think that's one thing that production will tell you, but it doesn't until it happens.
No,
you
just don't know. I thought, honestly, and at the start I feel like I was quite like, I thought I was sodden, but as the weeks go on, you're ground down. It's just constantly having people comment. You start to think, should I believe these things? Are they true? Like,
I think where I'm going to be quite honest here is, as you'll probably know, and as you've just had 20 minutes ago, but like you are on edge. Right? Yeah. Because every day I would get a phone call to say the papers have this, the papers have that. And like, if anyone has followed this, you'll probably know that I've had the shittest time in the papers.
Oh, God,
and about 0.1% of it is true.
Yeah.
But you need to just go, okay, thank you very much for that. Thank you for letting us know that. And here is my comment.
Yeah.
They're still going to run it, but that is horrible when, like, I mean, I always say this, but there was a story that was actually, I don't even know if it did come out, but I'm like, is that true? Is that like, and you start to then look around you and think,
who knows
that? Because I didn't even know something that came out, right? And I'm like, it's bloody bizarre. And I think what it's important to say is, like, you do all those entrance chats to be like, have a think about, is there anything that could come out?
And you think, surely not, because they go into your subconscious, don't they?
I know,
but
and then you're like, nah.
Yeah.
But I think, like, when it comes out, it's like, let's just get real about it. It's really not that bad. It lasts 24 hours.
Yeah.
As you saw, my exit was one of the most horrific 24 hours of my life, which you know what happened. I know what happened. And clearly some other people think otherwise. But on the grand scheme of things, Dani, like, it's 24 hours, and then you go, someone sat behind a computer, it isn't that deep.
What's the saying?
Yeah, we love this one.
Yeah.
Today's news, tomorrow's chip paper.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's so true. I'm like, but it really does get to you, because these people find you. Like, I had people at my door. I had people on my WhatsApps. Still to this day, I'm like, why are you messaging me?
I know.
Leave me alone.
But do you know what you have to do? You have to turn it into pity for these people and think, why is your life so sad and so boring that you're so interested? Yeah, it's true.
So do you know what? You can't. I can't argue with it. I think that's just the empathy in me going, oh, do you know what? God bless them.
Make some money.
Just trying to make some money. Someone fling them a $5, you know. But it's a shame, and I just think that that's something to consider. So let's talk about this. I have a few things that I want to ask for you, Dani. Tell me, if you had a magic wand, what would you do next?
Okay, so if I had a magic wand and I could just plonk my products onto the shelves in, I don't know...
Boots,
Superdrug, Harrods Beauty, then that is definitely what I would do.
Okay, that's good.
That is kind of the long-term goal for me, to have my products being sold globally.
Great.
Obviously,
which will happen. Boots, Harrods Beauty, if any of your buyers are out there, hit your girl up for Mermane products.
Yes, definitely.
So that's what you think. Let's just talk about another side of it, because for me, I'm like, Dani, you know, from day one, you were the one that I thought, she's the competition here. And I knew that we've spoken about this lots, but I was like, you know, we probably had it, because it comes from around you as well, right? And like everyone kept saying to us, what did they keep saying?
They kept saying, you two are the winners, or you two are the finalists.
So you then start to go, shit, I'm like, oh, I need to step up, I need to do this.
What's going to happen if we're in that boardroom together?
That's a little bit of a fight. But I think that, like, you then start to get inside your own head, because even production then start to go, they love you, they love Dani, he likes you, Karen likes you, and you then start to go, you've got something to prove. And I think when it comes down to that is, do you know what, like, when you come out of that, you really, for me, I thought, do you know what, I'm so proud of myself, and you must be so proud of you, because I'm like, do you know what, this is people I've never met. They've saw my work ethic on a show, and they're actually going, do you know what, good for you. And I think that's what's so important for me, is like, anyone in the world that wants to put themselves out there and go on a show like that, I always say credit when credit's due, because to put yourself in that uncomfortable, unknown environment and just go, do you know what, I'm giving it a go, that's what I think's so special.
Exactly. And although the show obviously does like make you look a bit silly and stuff. What it does enable you to do is showcase a really versatile set of skills. And I think like it does get you, you do get to see your work ethic and how willing you are to do things.
You also
and how
get to see your biggest mistakes on screen.
Exactly, but you can learn from that.
100%.
So I think it really is good. And I think even to potential investment or just
other jobs as well.
Yeah, exactly. You know? Like it's almost like a giant CV, isn't it? Like
let's call it a showreel.
A showreel, yeah. Literally.
So Lord Sugar is the director of our showreels. But let's just talk about this. Let's just talk about what you have learned from going on that process about yourself.
That's a very interesting question. Okay, so the first thing I would say that I've learned about myself, I didn't realise how frigging bossy I am. And I wouldn't have said that I was that assertive, but obviously from watching myself back, I can see that. But I think, I don't know.
Creative, you're so creative as well. Like, okay, maybe your dog food thing wasn't the best.
That was
but
terrible.
Dan, you have such a good creative eye. And I think that that's so important to say. Like, when we went on that show, I knew I could stand up in a room and talk to people.
Yeah.
I have never sold products in my life.
No.
I came home like the bloody Del Boy of Glasgow.
Yeah.
I was like, I can sell, I can pitch.
Yeah,
and you
do.
learn these skills about yourself. And I think if we've got that to thank for, what skills have you learned about yourself?
So I would say, yeah, I mean, definitely, I didn't think I would be able to stand in front of a room full of people and pitch. Like, and even just being able to speak to like people in corporate environments. Obviously, I don't do that on a daily basis. I'm in a salon with girls that I love. Do you know what I mean? I don't speak to... I think I learned that I actually can stand up for myself. I think I can articulate myself better than what I thought I could.
I think you can articulate yourself very well, and I think Vic did that so well.
Yes,
and I
so
think
well.
that for me, there was a perception, and I'll tell you that right now, that like, we're all idiots, that yous are all bimbos, and I think if there's one thing that you showed females, is that you can defend yourself and that yous work to have an all-5 female final again.
I know.
Is
it's saying something, isn't it?
But do you know what I think as well is like, I think it speaks volumes on the type of women that are in the industry now.
Yeah.
And I think that that's one thing that I have a 90% female team. I'm an advocate for it. I think good for you, go out there and do it. But I think that gone are the days that it was a male-dominated world. Like, it's not like that anymore.
No.
So I think that that's one thing that you must have learned as well, is that, you know, you've got such a strong willpower.
Yeah, and I've never been in a boardroom before. And obviously, like, typically, you'd think that would be men in suits. But it doesn't have to be like that.
Let's talk about the suits, because for me, if you had another magic wand and we could give that show a glow up, what would you do?
I would definitely bring it into today's...
Trackies?
Yeah, definitely trackies. But I would just make it more modern and more real, and how business actually is nowadays. You don't have really business plans and proposals and it's not formal pitches. That doesn't happen now. It's all about networking and...
It's all about building a brand. I have an idea for next season, and if anyone is listening or anyone cares.
Yeah, probably
I think what they should do is they should build an e-commerce business, and they should be made to go out and get genuine sales, and whoever builds that website licenses the product and gets the sales on Shopify wins the task. Like, see this hypothetical orders, it's really hard because so many times like the product isn't ready, and I think that, like, do you know what? The show is brilliant. We've had some laugh, and for me though, I think a certain someone has had their day.
Who?
I think Karen Brady should take over.
Oh, 100%.
And I'm just going to be very transparent with this. Lord Sugar, the big man. Any other names we've got from him?
Big Shugs.
Big Shugs, Sugar. You know.
Wait, you know what name you did?
So we had genuinely amazing guy, so good. He earned every stripe to be there. But for me, Karen Brady should be sat in that seat.
She knows everything that goes on, doesn't she? And I actually find her more intimidating.
Same. Right, he doesn't know the ins and outs the same way she does. And see, when you're in that boardroom and Karen is looking at you, I'm like,
Karen's back me up.
And I always think, I'm like, no, kind of, like, this is no secret, but she did like us.
Yeah, she did. I think she appreciated the fact that we did get stuck in, and you couldn't argue our contribution to those tasks. And as much as it might not make it into the edit, we literally was blue in the face, giving it 110% every minute of every day.
Stinking of sweat.
Yeah,
is the only way I can do. Do you know one time where I say Karen Brady, for me, I really, really respected her more is, do you remember that whole asparagus gate?
Yes.
And she said, I'll never forget it in the boardroom. I walked back in and she went, "Why are you here?" And I went, "Karen, I don't know. And I remember coming back to the house that night and saying, do you know what? I have total faith in this process. And that's one thing I will say is fair.
Yeah.
Is those who are fired, it is a fair process.
There's nothing.
Fact.
Yeah, there's nothing happens that isn't spoke
Logged.
about. Yeah, logged, doesn't go. It's very fair.
And I'm like,
I think that about all of them. They're very stern, but very, very fair.
And I think it's important to say, like, see this like whole narrative of like, oh, you know, the winners chose from the get-go. Lies.
Yeah.
It is such on task. You put one toe out of line, you could be sent home on that task. But honestly, I will say that task really restored, because obviously you get inside your own head. You're like, oh, I remember everyone, this. Oh, we're being mugged off. We're being this, and it's just like you've got a little boy attitude, Reese. I was being a little dick, being in my own head. You were being a little dick, running about like this is horrendous. Feeling sorry for yourself. When in actual fact, it is a fair process. Everyone is working incredibly hard in the sense of like. I just go back to the crew works so many hours. We work so many hours. Really, and I actually think for me, I'm like, I think it restores a bit of faith. However, what I will say is, I do think, like every TV show, sometimes you could be set up to fail.
Yeah, for the purpose of entertainment. But it wouldn't be funny.
Do you think it should come with a disclaimer that says, this show has been, like, do you know what the start of Timmy?
Yeah, was it? It's something for purpose of entertainment. Yeah. What does it even say that on?
Some of the facts, some of the something on this show has been set up for it. And do you know what? Like, I kind of contradict myself when I say that, because one part of me thinks that and one part of me thinks not. And I think it's because we've been through it. But do you know what? For me, I think, Dani, let's just recap, right? You went on there and you absolutely smashed it.
Thank you.
I loved watching you. I have a few questions that I would like to ask you.
Okay.
So we sit here on the Scottish CEO show. Mm-hmm. You tell me what makes a good CEO.
I think a good CEO, what makes a good CEO? I think just a burning desire to succeed. Mm-hmm. And I think that a desire to succeed needs to be beyond a number in your bank account. It needs to be having a genuine passion, and I think passion drives so much more than what money does. Like you could be getting paid X amount, but if you don't really believe in something, you're never going to keep pushing and pushing and pushing. Another thing I think makes a good CEO is being a little bit crazy, because I feel like I do.
It's true. You need to be a bit mental.
You do, because I feel like if you're just stuck in this same mindset as everybody else, you're going to be stuck in the same within the same limitations as everyone else. But if you're prepared to take that one little step further or do that one little bit that other people are scared to do, that's what will push you ahead.
I think what's quite important as well is being a CEO for me is about being a leader. And I always say, like, a CEO can only be the driving force of the vision, right? Mm-hmm. Being a leader for me is about having energy and having vision. And I think that's one thing that you demonstrated on that show. So I am a massive fan of your CEO-ship.
I appreciate that.
Next thing I'm going to ask you is, was it worth it?
I would say yeah. And I would say, even if nothing else, one thing The Apprentice has done for me is it has brought my family together every Thursday to watch it. And that is something I will always...
You never thought would have happened as well?
No, and I will always be grateful to it for that. So that alone is worth the 12 weeks or whatever of absolute grafting, just to bring my family as close as what it has. And I know that's very
it's true
answer,
though. And I think it
truth.
brings your community together. Next question, if you could change one thing about your apprentice time, what would it be?
Okay, so if I could change one thing that is so easy for me, I would have put more time, more effort, and actually, I'm going to say this, wrote my own business plan. Because I was in a rush. Mm-hmm. The business plan wasn't great. I'm the first to admit that. It was a load of ball beep. So I would definitely have put a lot more time, effort, energy, and care into
But let's just talk about that, because, Dan, you get about 2 weeks, right?
Exactly.
My business plan didn't make it to the advisors, and I put blood, sweat, and tears. But you almost don't think you're going to get that far. You're like, it doesn't cross your mind. Like, I remember every week, like, for someone that hadn't really watched the show, I remember getting the weeks gone and thinking, shit, I might potentially end up chatting to these people. So for you, when you got to that point, you probably were just glad to get to that point.
Yeah, you was. And I just thought, shit, what is even in there? Like,
so if you could tell me this, if you could go back and change anything, that's what it would be.
I would have put a lot more time and effort into my business plan and really had something solid, because I feel like based on the task, I had good feedback, but obviously it's just the business
Dani,
plan that really did let me down.
I think that it's so clear that everyone in there thought you were going to be that winning tiger. That's all I've got to say.
I think it's just, honestly, like, everyone
but
was
that's
so
what
supportive.
it's so, like, we don't know. And it's like, you know, no matter what we think, we don't know who's going to win.
No.
Maybe we do.
I do think the two girls that are in the final, though, you couldn't have two more lovely, genuine, hard-working, deserving people to be there.
And I actually think, do you know what? I'm like, everything in life is meant to be, which leads me on to my next thing. I always say, everything in life is a lesson or a blessing. So you make your choice. What was The Apprentice for you? Was it a lesson or was it a blessing?
A lesson. That's easy to say. What would you say?
A lesson.
A
100%.
lesson. Easy.
For me, I think I don't know if I've spoke to you about this, but I was so obsessed with my business that I was unhealthy. I needed away from it. I was probably going to take a nervous breakdown because of how obsessed I was with it. And walking away with it just makes you go, you know what? It ain't that deep.
It's work.
It's work. I am Reese. I am not the Theatre School of Scotland. You are Dani. You are not Mermane. And now it's opened up this world where I'm like, we can have more jobs. You know, I've not been very shy in saying that, like, I love working and presenting. That's why I'm sat here interviewing amazing guests like you.
Yeah.
And that is a spark that I probably wouldn't have got from going on The Apprentice. And I think for me, it makes you so much more hungry to succeed.
It does.
You know,
you are what you surround yourself with. When you see all of these people who are just absolutely smashing it, these massive, huge business tycoons like Lord Sugar and Karen. You think,
look at Mike Suter. Like,
I
just think, I'm like, that man is a Scottish man that is sat on there as an advisor. Look at the people that we're leaving mates. Look at Shannon's business. Look at, like, all of the businesses that we are in. Like, we are now surrounded by our best mates that are literally in business. And I think, if anything, what we've learned from that is we have a network of people. So I think it was 110% a lesson.
Yeah. And a blessing, I suppose.
It was a blessing that you got to meet me.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, to finish us off, I want to ask you this. So, for me, as I said, everything in life is a lesson or a blessing. And what gets me through those tougher days in business is always a quote.
Okay.
Tell me this. What is your all-time favourite CEO empowering quote?
Okay, so this is actually one that I just come up with myself, but my quote that I live by is, the worst possible outcome of any situation, anything, work, business, life, is that it will kill you. If it kills you, you won't even know about it, so don't frigging worry. So
that's a good one. And I think it's important. I always think of a different quote every episode we do, and I think the one that I'm going to take from our lesson today is, do you know what? It's not that deep.
It's not
that deep. I'm like, you know what? Sandra from Cornwall, if she really doesn't like us, you know what? Go out and do a bit of surfing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Do what you enjoy. Sandra.
Do what you enjoy. And I think that that's so important. So tell me this. Finish it off with your younger self. If anyone's listening, I love to help empower the younger people that are listening to this show. What would you tell your younger self?
I would tell my younger self, don't put barriers in the way. You are your own worst enemy, and the only person stopping you is you. Don't listen to anybody else. If you have an idea, run with it. And I think being young and starting a business is actually a huge advantage. You're so much less fearless. You have so much less responsibility.
Yeah, you've got less risk.
It's the perfect time. So I would just say, stop being your own worst enemy and just go for it. You have one life.
Yeah, I think as
YOLO.
well. YOLO. So I think that's so important. Is people always say, like, why did you do it? And I think, do you know what? You'd go and do it because you want to take the risk. We love the buzz.
Yeah.
So Dani, thank you so much for joining me today. Dani, where can we find you? We can shop your products at Mermane Hair Extensions. We can come and get our hair extensions done in your shop. And if you are interested in any training on how to put weaves in, then you can also do that. Dani, tell us, where can we follow you?
So you can follow me on Instagram, my personal account. That is just my name, Dani Donovan. You can also follow us on Mermane Hair Extensions and our website, mermane-hair.co.uk.
Thank you so much for joining me today. Dani Donovan, final 5 of The Apprentice and my apprentice best mate.
Thank you so much for having me.
No, thank you for joining us.